Hello and welcome to The Fix with the Fixer Saki Moon. Today we have Mr. TERRYL Calloway, Calloway Entertainment, a big figure in Boston, and we are so happy to have you here today, TERRYL.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Thank you for coming.
Let's go back. So I originally went to school to be a doctor.
Yes.
I was
biochem and pre-med.
Yeah, biochem at Brandeis University. I got a full 4-year scholarship to Brandeis. I was what they call the MLK Academic Scholar. So a lot of people say, oh yeah, what sport did you play? I didn't play any sports. It was my brain that got me into Brandeis University, which is one of the leading colleges. I think they're number 15 in the whole country in terms of universities and standing academically. So I was a biochemistry major.
That blew me away when I read that.
Yeah, I thought I wanted to be a doctor. Different. Yeah, I was always in high school. I was the nerd in high school. I was junior class, senior class president in high school. So I've always had sort of those leadership qualities that I thought were going to lead me into either politics or I had chose medicine. But my junior year in college at Brandeis, I started, had this interest for shows. I was working, in fact, at this nightclub called Kicks as a bouncer. And I, as I got to see what the entertainment thing was all about in terms of just being in that atmosphere and with parties, and it just, it changed my life.
Absolutely.
Entertainment got into my blood, and since then I never looked back. So I immediately changed gears in college and said that I wanted, instead of being pre-med, which I had a full scholarship, I left that scholarship and got accepted into Northeastern University.
Let's stop right there, because we need to address that. You had a pre-med scholarship, an MLK scholarship. So what did your parents say when you let the scholarship go, and how did you feel when you made that power decision?
Well, the beat of my heart, which is my mom, she's the only one that had any input in that. My father, although we had a relationship, we didn't have that great of a relationship. So it was my mom, the strength, the backbone of our family, was somewhat disappointed, but she understood that her son was a leader and that he sort of knew how to create his own path. And that's,
that's significant, because a lot of people don't get that grace from their parents.
Decision making and stuff like that, she was confident that I was making the right decision, and I went on that path. And
she became a great supporter of you. Absolutely. In the industry. We talked about...
She was my bank. She was my cashier.
She was the bank!
At all of my events. Yeah.
So what did she want from you? What did she ask of you when she was bankrolling these events?
She just wanted me to be successful. She wanted me to be caring. And she has always been that inspiration in my life that it's always been there no matter what.
Right.
That do or die person.
Right.
In your corner that's there during the good times and the bad times. And she was phenomenal as far as that was concerned.
So with all due respect, the nerd becomes the king of promotions in Boston. I know that one of the stories that you love to share is about your experiences creating the Cotton Club, right?
Yeah.
And my partner, Don HAZEL, was part of that, right? He emceed this big night. You want to talk to us about what led you to develop the Cotton Club?
Well,
and what was that like?
So, thank you. I think that creatively, I noted that I was always like a creative person. So I wasn't that person that was going to be in front of the camera.
Okay.
I found my joy and passion in being in the back, the production part of events and anything that I did. I got a kick of being a part of it and not being the upfront person.
Absolutely.
So I began to learn that role was called a producer or a promoter, or you're that person that brings
people together,
all of the stuff together.
And that's what people say about you. You are the great bringer together of people. Yeah.
So I've always been, like, even now, and it's amazing that I'm able to talk like this, because it took me a long time to talk about my success in terms of the entertainment stuff and stuff that I did. In particular, I know that we'll talk a little more about as I was was diagnosed with a brain condition that caused me to be unable to read and write anymore from a stroke that I suffered as a result of brain surgery that I had. So to be here talking to you now is just like a blessing from God, and to share my story with you is amazing, and the strength that I'm getting from God now to tell it to you in your views is just amazing as well.
That's very significant, and it's very emotional. And as the receiver of this information, I feel very honored and very privileged to hold this information you are sharing with us today.
Do that, and also be proud of yourself, and be proud of your team here that you got together to believe in you, to be able to put together something like this is amazing in itself.
Absolutely.
So all our hands are out off to you as well for just seeing the vision, doing the vision, praying on it, and doing the damn thing. That's an amazing thing. And
I have to give props to Sonny Thompson, too, who has been a musician and entertainer for his whole life, whose father was a musician and entertainer. And he, during our team meetings, brought your name up, right? And then my team and I agreed that working with you would be absolutely phenomenal. And then when we were able to secure this interview with you, the team was very excited. So
thank you again, team.
Right. So it is an honor to be able to share this experience with my team as well. But I want to talk about, before we get into the nitty-gritty of that disturbance in your life that we're going to talk about and how you came back from that, let's get back to the fun. Let's get back to the Cotton Club. Tell me that night in the Cotton Club that you and Don Hazel are so fond of.
Well, so that was part of my creativeness, and I always had an affection for theme parties. So I created a lot of my, the black affair, the white affair, all those things that these guys do, I did 40 years ago. So, and in my sort of need to create and to come up with innovative things. So that's part of being on top of the game.
So you need it. This is purpose for you. You need it.
You have to,
I can relate to that.
You have to be innovative. You have to be better than the competition. You have to be creative and bringing new stuff to the market. And even, it doesn't even necessarily have to be new in general, because there's, black affairs and white affairs, but sometimes, the Boston market hasn't seen it before.
The black Boston market, and that was the audience you wanted to capture. The black audience, the black upscale audience. You wanted to bring upscale to the black residents of Boston, and that was really, that was your purpose.
Yeah. So to get back to the Cotton Club, I've always been totally enamored with the 20s, the Roaring 20s, and even as a young youth, probably about in my 20s, I went through a phase of wearing
the zoots,
old suits, and this was there was a store on Newbury Street. It was owned by a black man who was later became a good friend of mine. So it was called Strutters, and Strutters was a shop that they produced old-fashioned stuff. It's like hand-me-down.
An era. It was an era.
Yeah, he would buy these clothes from salvage companies, Goodwills all over the country, and bring them. And you know, he created a store out of this place. So he was a friend of mine, and we. So I came up with the Roaring 20s thing of the Cotton Club, the era.
Yes.
And boy, it was like a major theatric production, because we had a full-out fashion show with these Roaring 20s clothing, and everybody. This guy had high-end stuff where my guests could go and rent from him or buy from him. Excellent. So a lot of them did. The fashion show had over 40, 50 models in it, including skits. We had the cotton.
At your level,
I think that never afraid to take on a challenge. Always knowing that the past doesn't equal the future, and that there's always another day and another opportunity to create, which kept, you know, things going for me and my family, and my commitment to my family and my kids, and being able to be the mentor that my dad wasn't for my family at all. And a lot of black families where, you know, the male presence is missing, and that leadership is missing. I felt, you know, really obligated to be that missing link to my family more stronger than ever, because a lot of black men in particular, they fail at that. And I didn't really know, because I didn't have a father to mentor me through that whole process. But I learned on my own through failure, because you gotta, success is failure turned inside out, and you gotta understand that concept to appreciate it and grow from it, and that's, you know, what I did.
You know, there are two spectrums of opinion in psychology, and they talk about nature versus your nurturing. Who you were born as. You were born as a leader. Yeah. And then you had a mother who expounded on that strength of yours, right? And then you're nurturing your environment. So you didn't have an example of the male leader that you became, but it was already in you. And so you were able to go into yourself and pull that out at a very young age and bring that to Boston. So you said at 20 you did your first show. In my readings, we talk about...
Well, let me go. I can go back.
I bet you can.
So let me go back. So Senator Bill Owens was my mother's friend, and my first taste at promotion was I did a fundraiser for he was then State Representative Bill Owens. I did a fundraiser for him. I raised $300 for a political. He was amazed. At the age of 12 years old, I was still like doing a little paper route, but I used to put together. So I did a little house party. Turned my mom's house upside down, and we did a house party. And I literally at $5 a head. So you know how many people that was running through our little house. I raised $300 for then State Representative Bill Owens, and he was impressed. And so I think since that day, it instilled in me that, you know, the whole marketing thing, and it stayed with me until I went to college, and I really started to do the parties in college, and the club parties. And
so you were Diddy before he was Diddy. So when they talk about Diddy doing all these parties in college,
I was right there with him. I was a little older than him.
Right.
I think that my track in Boston was limited to Boston, really, because my scope, I didn't think much bigger than Boston. Although I had traveled a little bit.
Although you were thinking very big.
Yeah, it
to
was,
be in Boston.
Yeah. So if I was in a New York market or Atlanta market, I think that would have opened me up to much, much bigger things. But my track was in Boston, and my interest was only in Boston. And my family, as you get the other things that sort of keep you stationary and stable, and that's why I sort of stayed in Boston. But we'll talk as what broadened my horizon, and it made me think big and globally, is as a promoter. So I always seeking opportunities, and one of my first big events as a promoter, because I was doing the damn thing, the national promoters for Prince and Sheila E. were looking for a local promoter to promote an event at this club called the Paradise Nightclub.
So this is 85. Are we in 85 now?
Yeah.
Okay, 84, 85.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I was
You just graduated from Northeastern.
Yeah,
right?
I was just out of graduation from Northeastern. And I was promoting at the Paradise Nightclub. I was doing, I think it was Friday nights or some night, theme night every. So the promoters from, and one of the owners from the Paradise Nightclub asked me, they didn't know how to handle black shows. So they said, we have this woman, Sheila E., coming to the Paradise Rock Club. So it's a rock club, and they didn't sort of understand what genre Sheila E. and Prince sort of fit in, but it wasn't white rock in their eyes.
And it wasn't pop yet in their eyes.
So they wanted me to promote the show for them, and I said, okay, fine. And Prince was big on the underground market, and Sheila E. was, as a protege, was huge with Glamorous Life, right? I mean, come on, I didn't have to do much work.
Now this is after Purple Rain. This is after Purple Rain.
Right.
Right. So they are.
Yeah. So that was along the same, 1979, right? Yeah, I believe. Yeah. So the promoters for Prince were at the show that night in Boston. They loved the way I produced the show. I had lines around the corner. You probably saw some of those lines in the
Now, the
pictures.
Paradise, was this on Mass Ave in Cambridge?
No, on Commonwealth Avenue.
Ave, okay.
Commonwealth Avenue. So, lines around the corner. They loved the way I promoted the show. And I swear to God, and this is when the Purple Rain tour was going on, because she was sort of like the opening artist.
Yeah.
I got a call after the show and they said, "Terryl, we loved you, loved the way you did the show in Boston. How would you like to come out and promote for us nationally our Black Club special event parties?"
I want to stop you right there, only because you got a phone call from Prince's people. Prince was major at this time. What was that phone call like for you, and what did it do for you? What did it do for your business etiquette, the way you moved?
So let me be clear. It was the promoters. So when you do a tour or you do anything like that, it's the promoters or the marketing end of, it wasn't Prince himself.
Okay. So it was other Boston promoters.
No. It was the national promoters of the Purple Rain tour.
Got it.
That called me and said, "Hey, we love what you did in Boston. We need your help." My help with Purple Rain? So, I mean, what else can you do but just sit in a dream world for... But this just goes to show you that you have to be in the mix. You have to be doing it. You can't be scared to step out in faith and put yourself into the universe so that that opportunity comes to you. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what I did. I stepped out in faith. I, was long from wanting to go to medical school and be a doctor. I was on a new road, mm-hmm. and it was called the entertainment business. So I received it. I went in and I didn't know shit about the national scene. All I knew was Boston.
Right. But you knew you.
You want me to go to 50 states across this country and promote in the black markets. But let me tell you, did I get busy learning? And I called on other promoters in the market because mm-hmm. I brought on partners, people that knew the mm-hmm. market, mm-hmm. brought them on, got them paid, and I was a national promoter. So that established me as a national person. And then I went on to promote 3 other tours that Prince did. So I had sort of like a 10-year legacy. When Prince went on tour, I was always the marketing tour manager for Prince. So it allowed me to step out and do other things, but I had a nice solid gig managing his stuff. So from that, I was setting up his VIP parties. I was setting up. I was meeting people like Tiger Woods. Mm. Tiger Woods. I was setting up, making sure that Prince, the marketing stuff. We engaged with different celebrities that wanted to meet Prince in VIP parties. So I was setting up all the VIP parties around the country and around the world. So I went to France, Germany, all over the world.
And so the idea with you traveling all over the world during this tour was to tap into the black market in those different markets.
Well, it wasn't black anymore, so it was just marketing. Okay. So it was just, engaging with the press, engaging with all those things that you do as a marketing professional to let as many people as you can. So it started with sort of a small thing, and then it expanded to bigger things in terms of marketing and promotion. So in that hat that I had on, it was just the most amazing thing in terms of each night or every 3 days we were in a different market. We were, I was engaging with different people. I got to meet incredible people all around, and just lifelong memories around the country, around the world.
And how did that add to you? How did that add to Calloway?
It just gave me a world perspective on life. Like, damn, from little old Boston to around the world.
So is that when you decided to bring upscale to the Black community in Boston? Is that when we're going into the gallery? And
so gallery came, you know, after that, but the gallery came as a result of their needing to be an upscale sort of, and at that time you could get away with gentlemen wear jackets and women, you know, no jeans, right? So upscale was something that was needed at the time, and it was just a sign of the times, and it did very well. And for 4 or 5 years, it was the most successful Black-owned nightclub. But one nuance that I was able to create with the gallery was that I understood the markets. I understood that I couldn't give the market the same thing every night. So I was one of the first promoters in Boston to understand that there was a lot of diversity in the market. So I segmented the market. So we had Wednesday night was hip hop night. We had Thursday night is what I called international night, because I knew we had a big college market, and people didn't understand why 500 white kids were coming to the gallery on Thursday night to engage in this night, which was supposed to be a Black club, right? Then Friday nights was just like upscale, professional Black. Friday and Saturdays was sort of a Black professional night. And then Sunday, I was one of the first promoters to do a Cape Verdean night in the market. So we had Cape Verdean night. And then I went on understanding the different segments in the market. We went on to have Latin nights. We went on to have Caribbean nights. So I was one of the first promoters to actually understand the segmentation of the market and to be able to present in one venue different markets on different nights and keep them all separate. And sort of, they kept separate. Like on this Thursday night, you know, people would sneak in on that Thursday night and say, "Oh, I think we're in the wrong place." You know, but at the same time,
came on the wrong night.
Then, you know, it wasn't, you know, it was. You would come in and it was like a box of chocolates, you know, the sort of chocolate.
You never know what you're gonna
get.
Right.
So that added to just the whole novelty of the night and the whole, you know, just kept it alive so we had a very significant run, a 5 or 6 year run.
And you made me think of something else which sounds novel. You were not just a promoter, but you were an owner-operator of the gallery in your club. So as the promoter, you owned and operated these clubs.
So yeah, so I went from, so let me tell you, so that's, the legacy went from promoter, right? So when I went to get the gallery was a gay club. It was strictly gay. No one's, they had no business there.
Bonafide gay.
I went there and I said, "Hey, I can help you guys with." I went there looking for a Black night, to just do a Black promoter night. And the owners say, "Black night, we need help with the whole operation." So, you know, at that time I didn't understand, you know, anything else but Black, but again, opportunity came, I learned it.
Yes.
I learned it, and I said, okay, I can do that.
Yep.
So I learned it, and I stepped out in faith, and it became one of the most successful nightclubs in the city. It was the first multi-million-dollar Black nightclub in Massachusetts.
And it ran for many years.
6 years.
Yeah, 6 to 7 years.
And until, you know, so the gallery was a highly successful black club, so with it came its problems. The during the late 80s,
late 80s, early 90s,
crack was introduced to Boston.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
crack was like ripped through our community like crazy, and with it came its bad things. It's gangbangers and
Absolutely.
the guys,
the drug dealers, the gang
dealers,
the money makers were the gang dealers and the drug dealers. But then you must have lost a huge fragment of your population, because now those, or correct me if I'm wrong, did many of your members become drug addicts? Many of the people that used to patronize
not at all.
your
So you got to understand that market, and even today, is a very small market, but they're the ones that come in, the winners, the troublemakers, the people who want to show off their daily money that they made. I mean, they came to my club.
Spoils.
And Wednesday night was sort of like our hip hop night, and this was the night where those guys came to show off their winnings for the night, or their take. And I mean, we had the highest volume of champagne on that night.
Moet, Cristal, during that time.
No other clubs in the market were doing the kind of volume that we were doing on this night.
Yeah.
And I knew that it, the balance, it came with a price.
Yeah.
It came with the violence of what was going on in the city at that time. And yes, I experienced some stabbings, some shootings towards the latter part of the gallery's success, which really led to the demise of the club in terms of just the violence. And that it's part of the gallery's legacy. We had to change the club's name a couple of times. Cotton Club. We went to the Paramount. And that for any club, you have to change your name to sort of keep it up, because it's fashion, right? It's like
trend. Is it trending or is it not trending? Right,
exactly.
And I want to talk about that, how you pivoted, right? Because you, up until that point, you had been experiencing success. Everything you touched, you had the Midas touch. But 94, 95, now you got to start pivoting, right? Because we have a new phenomenon. TERRYL Calloway is not the new phenomenon now. It is crack cocaine. So how did you pivot? How did you stay in business and stay successful? And it wasn't just with the name changes, right?
Yeah, it was very difficult, because I think we had a shooting in the club, and it was a police, a member of, I think it was a police officer fired a shot in the club or something like that, and somebody was stabbed, and I went home because I had a migraine headache, which will come up later in our discussion.
Yes.
I went home because I had a migraine headache, and I came back, and that night was like, it was horrible. And one of the guys that was stabbed was allegedly stabbed by one of my security people, and he later died. And the guy that was accused of stabbing him was who, at the time I was sort of like in between managing those guys, or helping him more as a mentor, guiding them. We didn't officially have any legal paperwork that said that I was the manager, but that's what I was caught in between. And it was very tragic, and it was just like a turning point in my life in terms of, yeah, what am I doing here? What have I created? And I put a lot of self-blame when Rodney died, and it sort of was a turning point in my life as a promoter, because I'm just thinking, and it took a lot to sort of get over that and to understand, from a lot of support from the community. Say, Terrell, listen, that could have happened anywhere. You bring great entertainment to our city. Don't let that, stop you from doing that. And, I did slowly start to think about, as the club was closed at that point, how I was going to get through it. And through a lot of prayer and a lot of support from the community, we were eventually able to open back up. But I didn't have the same
gusto
in
passion.
Doing it.
Yeah. That's something that gets lost when you hear about these stories. You're not hearing about the business owner feeling it and how it affected not just the closing of a business or the pivoting of a business, but the business owner themselves. And so you say that was a weight for you. You felt that. What was the time of feeling, mourning, for lack of a better word, that you went through, that pause? How long was that pause before you jumped back in and said, okay?
It was a few years. Because I felt responsible. I felt I just, on a personal level, it wasn't just strictly, business to me. It was just like a life had been lost. And, it wasn't like the first time, just what was going on in the community. This was the era of crack. And 150 people had died and murdered in the streets in Boston. Something never heard of. That first 2 or 3 years of crack, it was, between 100 and 150 people killed each year on the streets in Boston. So again, the entertainment, the whole glitz of the hip hop scene was all being dramatized in the club, right? They wanted to be a part. So this accentuated that, the whole being in the club, popping the bottles of champagne, and all, and it put me, as being a Christian and being someone who believes in God and faith, and it really made me think, and as I went to church every Sunday, and you look at alcohol and its impact on the way that people behave, and so I start to internalize a lot of that stuff, and it was a really conflictual battle within my brain. It wasn't good for my brain in terms of promoter versus spirituality, and so I started to think more about, I can be, the biggest promoter of gospel events and spiritual events. So, that's when I sort of started to change my focus to more entertainment stuff and more concert-orientated stuff. But again, I just believe just a part of it, and that it shouldn't stop me. And a lot of people have told me it shouldn't stop me from doing the 99% good that it was doing to the community.
Because you weren't just setting up shop, you were bringing vision, creativity, a location,
and entertainment.
A location, entertainment, food, beverages. So you were bringing a lifestyle, and that was very important to us in Boston. So I'm glad that you persevered with that.
Thank you.
So at the same time, you got the gallery. It's popping off, right? And it wasn't just a nightclub. You actually used it for civic engagements, Christmas parties for the children, and meeting spots for people who wanted to talk about different classes, the different classes in Boston, you know, and how do we, you know, people just in the atmosphere for people to come who recognized how Boston was changing, right? A meeting place for people. So not just a nightclub. At the same time, you were doing your promotional tours, and when you brought LL Cool J here, what was that time period like? Was that...
Well, so, you know, I sort of went through my brain.
I was at that concert, by the way. I remember what I wore. Blue and white Adidas outfit, blue and white striped shorts.
So, you know, I've done over 3,000 events or more over, you know, the 40 years that I'm talking about, from the time I was 20 to today I'm 60. And, you know, it all seems the same to me. It's just being able to provide a service to a community with my expertise to add, you know, something special to the community. It's always been, you know, because a lot of it is, like I said, spiritual, and a lot of my work I do, you know, for nonprofit and to help other people raise money from the things that I do. But as far as, you know, the star stuff, I mean, it's crazy. Like I got LL Cool J for like $2,000. I got what's his name? What's his name? The king of the king of hip hop.
Bobby Brown?
No, the king of hip hop.
The king of hip hop.
I'm having a mental block. Jay-Z.
What about Eric B. and Rakim?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, come on.
They weren't.
You can't compare.
Rakim, right?
You can't compare.
Right.
But these were all artists I got for like $1,000, you know, 30 years ago, $1,500. But, you know, Jay-Z, I look at it as a billion, you know, artist. Like, you know, I paid $2,000 from. So, you know, a lot of record companies, like I provided my good in the market at the time, and it's all relative, you know, but it was the business I chose to be in, and that's how it developed. And by me being in it, I could talk to you today about it. It's just, you know, taking advantage of opportunity, and that's what I did.
And for you, it's just one of 3,000 concerts. But for me, I was at these different events in different places that you established. So for me, it's like, oh my God, I'm sitting here with the man who set this up, and I had so much fun at this club or at this concert. So this is nostalgic for me.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to talk to you about a play that you're very proud of, Mama, I Wanna Sing. Was that the first play that you kind of backed?
Well, so again, that's in my vocabulary of shows that I promoted. So what happens is, as a promoter, the national promoters will come to me in the Boston market and say, you know, I'm bringing this show to town. We'd like you to be our local promoter for it. Mm-hmm. So we would establish a deal, and I would be the person that would, you know, be the consultant to that show. So I wouldn't necessarily have to put up all the crazy money to bring in. That I would be a line item in the show. You just pay me a consultant's fee, and that's how I was able to, you know, survive and do so many things at one time.
That's a great point.
Yeah, because of my expertise, national promoters from all over the country would call on me to do their local. Because, you know, when you go into a market, you don't know what you're doing a lot of times, and especially if it's a new market for you. So I was that national consultant. So when all these big plays and shows and the whole Boston on the Common stuff, they came to me as that local guy that could get the job done. And that's what I did for many artists, from Luther Vandross to any of the big artists that have come to Boston. I didn't necessarily put up all the production, and I was that consultant.
You were that guy.
That they would come to assure the marketing success of the show.
And that transcends race, right? So you weren't just the black guy that they were looking for. We need this black promoter. Yes, you know, in some instances that may have been the case, but you were just the guy, right?
Yes.
That's amazing. And then you start getting awards. You start being recognized by the city of Boston and in the state of Massachusetts. What was that like? You know, once you started getting that recognition, did that put you in a different category, on a different tier? Did that put you in a new income?
I didn't really start thinking about that until recently, as I dust off my old awards, which I have over 40 awards and recommendations from the different city to state and various organizations for the work that I've done. And I just recently put them together along, with my beautiful fiance who's there, who's been such an inspiration in my life, to say, hey, man, look at the stuff that you've done and be proud of it. And it's helping me move forward in my mission to be the greatest promoter that ever lived. And that's, especially in Boston, and I think I have that sort of local distinction. But now my goal is to become nationally known, and at the same time big up Boston and be a part of our entertainment success here. So I serve on a lot of different boards and in a non-profit way. So right now my legacy development is based upon giving back to the youth in particular, and the community as a whole.
You've done such a great job at it. When I first met you, I was a hairdresser at Danny's, His, and Hers. And so I met you by entering your hair shows. I know that we talked about, being a promoter for different kinds of shows and how it's all part of the repertoire. But that was a new niche. That was a new industry that you pivoted to. Can you talk to us about, but when you did it, being a hairdresser was the big thing. We had all the money. We went to all the clubs. We never had to wait in line. It was major. So for me, I can see why. But talk to us about why.
So again, let me just say, my mentor and my guidance in that, and who brought it to my brain, was definitely Muffin.
Yep. Absolutely. So Muffin, the one and only.
Yeah, Muffin, I looked at Muffin in her hair show that I think she did a year or two prior to mine, and I said, I can do that bigger and better, because I understood, the marketing. So she was a more of an industry person within, and she was a beauty
and a trailblazer in the industry.
She's a beauty professional first. But I understood how I could take that and make it bigger and better from my own perspective. So me and Muffin have always gone back and forth, and I've never been like a hater in that respect, because I've always included her to participate in my shows, and she's always come back, and we have allowed the streets to be sort of like cause us to be more competitive in that. So, and I've always dragged her back, and come on, Muffin, it's not like that. I'm I'm doing this for different reasons. She's doing it for, and so we decided that she would do her show one part of the year, so we wouldn't bump heads, and we weren't competitive in that. So we were the two biggest shows.
Two big, yeah.
But I understood how to be a marketer and a promoter, and that's something that she didn't have. She produced a great show on stage, but it's, in terms of attendance and marketing, that's what I knew how to do, and I probably had more time to do that. And you know, to date, I thank her for that. So the hair show has become, it had become one of the biggest events all year. That
biggest
people,
draw, absolutely.
3,000 people would have every hair show. That would be between the competition and the after party, which was like the huge part of that event. And I plan on bringing it back. We're gonna bring it back next year after this COVID situation. It's gonna be new school meets old school. New England Hair Expo and after party. You
heard it here first on the Fix.
Yeah. So it'll probably be my last time doing it, but it will be just something that's in my brain. So let's talk about my brain and how it has impacted my life and my career. So about 19 years ago, I was diagnosed with something called an AVM, abnormal malvenous formation of the blood vessels in my brain. So it's sort of like a tumor-like formation in my brain, and it manifested itself as migraines. So all my life I've suffered from migraines, and I was always told that I just had severe and bad headaches all my life. So I've noticed it since I was like 13 years old. And they were like devastating type headaches, but every time I went to the doctor, they said, you just have severe migraines. And I think I was traveling with Prince. I don't remember what tour it was, but I was had to actually be taken off a plane, and I was brought to Mass General Hospital, and I was, this was 19 years ago, I was diagnosed with the AVM, and I was 2 or 3 weeks later, I was in the hospital having 3 brain surgeries. 2 they did through my femoral artery, and then the final one was a full craniotomy, which during that operation I suffered a stroke. And that was one of the risk of having any type of brain surgery. So from the stroke, I am today legally blind in one eye, and I can't really read or write from my stroke anymore. So this was a devastating part of my life, and I, you know, although I went through a lot of rehabilitation, and it, you know, when you have a stroke, it's something that don't come back. So I had to reinvent myself. Here I am. I can't read or write. What do you do?
So this is 2000, 2001. You had 14 years of success. You are moving. You are shaking. And
now I'm shook.
Now you're shook. Ooh.
Yeah. And I was devastated, and it impacted my life so crazy in terms of just, what do I do? I can't read or write anymore. What am I gonna do? And I stood up and I said, I gotta move on. And I prayed on it, and I just kept continuing what I did, and I knew how to do. So I couldn't read or write. So thank God technology came in, and every electronic device had an app or an ability to take text and transcribe it into voice. So I could receive my, especially Apple, anything that came over as text and transcribed.
Yes.
So my reading and writing thing, although I'm still blind in one eye, I was able to overcome that through that technology that allowed me to read again. From that step on, as far as my entertainment business was concerned, I focused more in on Calloway graphics and printing, because that had the barrier to entry into the print market had came down dramatically. It was all a digital thing, which again, now I had the technology on my side to send an email, create graphics, send it out to Florida, bring it back up to Boston, and still make a substantial profit off of my graphics and printing business.
Again, the right place at the right time.
And then all of the event opportunities were still there.
Right.
You don't necessarily, you just have to know how to talk to put together deals together on the phone.
So you didn't have to go meet with people. You didn't have to do a big write-up, summary, all that. No, you had to.
And that's what I did. And then, I have just so many creative people. My mom, number one, to thank for, that success. And my mom my mom took off early retirement to come and help me through that time where I was diagnosed and I was going through a lot of psychological issues on how I was going to come back into the market and be able to provide for my family, right? Because, you have bills and I figured it out. I figured it out with, many people in my corner to support me, and all those friends, came through. And it's brought me where I'm at here today.
I asked you a question earlier. What were your strengths, right, that kept you in the game? And what I'm hearing is your strengths are in not just your intellect, but in your human capital. You understand how valuable other people are, right? And so for you, you weren't pulling people in for game. You were pulling people in for opportunity, right? So again, giving opportunity to other people. And so when the time came where you needed an opportunity to heal, people were there.
I think my role as a leader and just doing it, and as I hear young kids today who, it brings joy to me, that talk about, it was because of me, it was because of my event that, they were inspired to go on in business, or in the case of many couples, because of all of my events, they were able to get married because they met at one of my events. So, it's that now, as I think about my legacy and what I've done, and the impact on the community, that makes me happy, and it makes me move forward in my journey.
As someone from those communities, it makes me feel very comforting sitting with a man who really sought to make my community better, whether that be in entertainment or my industry here or graphic design, whatever it was. When I was doing shows myself, we would come to you for the graphic designs.
That's right.
Right? So, and then how we've always interceded each other.
It's all one big circle.
It's always one big circle. So in my mind's eye, I remember you as the promoter, and then I remember you going into the graphic design. This is my mind's eye. And then your health scare. So that's how I remember your trajectory. Entertainment, promoting, and then the graphic design, and then the medical issue, and still the graphic design. But you had so many different fuses in between all of this, which makes you so much more interesting. I want to talk about two other things that are one is very important to you. The Roxbury YMCA basketball, boys basketball, is that what you were involved in for a long time, the Roxbury YMCA?
No, no, never was in, just in their fitness program.
Okay.
So they have with Brandy. Are you familiar with Brandy?
Yes.
Yeah. So Brandy has been a tremendous inspiration in my life. Known her throughout the years. She's in terms of health and fitness, which we know is a huge part of anybody's success. So she was one of my trainers that brought a group of black men that had, health issues. And through her programming with the Y, she's helping a lot of black men and women, overcome issues with, diet and just basic taking care of your body so that your mind can grow and prosper. Because without your body...
And she's fierce with that. Now, listen, I met Brandy at Danny's and Hers. I did her hair one day. She is serious about her, whatever she does. Yeah. I remember her opening up her gym down Dudley.
Yeah.
I haven't heard much about her. She's still around. I heard you say the YMCA. Does she have
she's a teacher, with the Boston Public School System. So she's doing her thing. And she's also just a great motivator. And she runs several different health programs. And she consults to a lot of schools and a lot of private and public organizations. So she's reinvented herself. Okay. Yeah, so she is doing the damn thing.
Absolutely.
And she's one of my mentors as far as it comes to health is concerned.
Absolutely. So, she's amazing.
Healthy body is a healthy mind.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I want to talk really quick about you. One of your dreams was to start an FM radio station. Is that still a dream? Are you still going there?
No, I'm way past that. It was one of my, it's just a barriers to entry back then.
Yeah.
When I was thinking about it, it was early, 30 years ago that I wanted to do it. And I just, when my health issues came up, it was something that took a sidetrack. But the future for me now, looking at a couple of opportunities with my children. So my daughter, Chantel, has a highly successful board game now, RENAISAANCE, which was created from our family discussion about maybe 8 years ago, and now she is in Target stores all over the country.
Wow, RENAISAANCE. What is the game?
It's a board game. You say a word and you create a rap from it. And it's an educational piece for kids. It's a family game. It has a mic to it, and you have a few seconds to create your rap using different homonyms, synonyms. Different. It's an amazing educational piece, and it's taken off, and I'm so proud of her. It was just like a family discussion that transformed into, which her dad brought to her.
Absolutely. Now you have.
I told her. I said one day at the table. I said, "What if, there was a game where you could say a word and you create a rap from it." She ran with it, and the next thing we know, we have RENAISAANCE. It was over 5 years in development, but she did it.
Now she has worked closely with you. She is one out of how many of your children?
4 daughters.
4 daughters. And she is which number?
She is number 1.
She is the number 1.
Yeah.
What number child are you?
I'm number 1.
You're number 1. I am too. And so I asked you those questions about you and your daughter because you seem so similar. You seem to have been connected in business. And so now she has this board game trending in national brand stores. What else is she up to that she learned from her father?
Well, she's learned to be humble. She's learned to, you know, part of her legacy has been to just be humble and to be patient with life because she's gone through some life crises herself. And I think by watching her dad go through what he has done in life in terms of health, she understands that there is a God and that there is always a solution to any and most problems. And she has dealt with some things in her life that has made her a stronger person. And faith is everything, and believe and trust in God. And our family has always been leaned on faith to help us through. My third daughter, Ty, who she owns a company called Bomba Slush, which is going to be the next big thing.
What is it?
It's Bomba Slush is a slush company.
I figured.
So it's in Florida, and it's going to be the next big thing. Which Tony, who's in here, was one of our original investors. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
And Tony believed in that product, and I think you're going to be hearing a lot about Bomba Slush.
The apple does not fall far from the tree.
All my daughters, you know, they sort of they have like the entrepreneurial bug and spirit, and that's what sort of brings us together all the holidays. They're all over the country now, different places, but you know, it's a legacy. So you know, you create and you plant that seed, and you hope that you know it grows within the family, and it's doing that now.
Thank God for that. That your legacy will always be here. And so I want to transition from your medical crisis, right? This huge, you mentioned earlier that all of the action and your thought processes when you were running the clubs was not good for your brain, right? And so with that thought in leading up to your diagnosis and your surgeries, this is the crust of it all. You said it was faith that brought you through. And we all can resonate with that. What was it in yourself that brought you through?
I think failure is not a solution for me. Failure is not. I'm a person that just keeps going no matter what. My brain is sort of stuck on moving forward.
Autopilot.
Yeah, because you can't fade back or you'll get left back. You know, I continually move in a forward momentum, and as long as you're moving, you don't die. It's when you stop moving, you die.
That's right.
And that's when people notice both physical non-movement, right, and emotional non-movement causes death of whatever that is you're moving forward to. So, and as we all say in the hood, every day keep it moving. It's true. You got to keep it moving. or you'll die.
You're right. I have a tagline. It says, stay focused, stay committed, stay moving. That's staying power.
That's right.
And that's something that I created for myself. A lot of what you said resonates with me, and I think that's part of the reason why it was so easy for us to communicate and share these stories with each other. And I want to expand and expound on some of the things that you shared. So who have you become? Or who are you becoming?
That's a great question. It's a scary question because I think of myself as I think of my legacy, right? At 60, you start to seriously think about your legacy. And who am I? Born in 1960, I'm thinking about the dash now. How am I going to be remembered? How am I going to create a legacy for my family and my community? And that's where I'm at now. It's everything is for not me anymore, because I think growing up in the entertainment business with all the flash, you sort of lose track of that, and you lose track of your identity, right? Because you're so busy flashing in your success. So now I'm like, all I'm focused on is the dash and the give back to both my family, my new life with my fiance, and my give back to the world. And that's all that matters. I'm keeping it simple.
Keeping it simple.
And moving forward.
I want to thank you for that, because this interview today is a give back. And I want to thank you for that give back. I feel emotional right now, and I feel like there's so much more to this story that we can delve into. So I hope that you'll come back, and I hope that you'll share more, and I hope we can take a special event in your life and expand on that, right? Because it's very significant as a Black man, right? A biochem pre-med student who goes into entertainment and doesn't just go into entertainment. You come into entertainment and you blow it all the way up.
Thank you.
You blow it out of this world, right? You knock the roof off the house, right?
Thank you.
And we all know you, and we all talk about you, and you fit into the crevices of each of our lives because you've done something that we've participated in. So thank you, Mr. Calloway.
Thank you.
For sitting with us today.
And a shout out to all my daughters. If I forgot any of them, they're all included in my success, certainly. Of course, because I won't hear the last of it.
Certainly, and a shout out to my daughter, right?
Yeah.
And a shout out to our partners who are here.
Yes, everybody, the whole staff. Thank you, team. Yes.
Thank you.
And I hope that this program, thank you to you, and really understanding and you know, this means a lot to me, because it's really the first time that someone's really took the time out to understand me, understand my give back to the community, and what I've gone through to be here today talking to you. So documenting my story, I will always value and cherish, and believe me, it's has helped me in my healing with myself and making me understand more about who I am and what I have done. And because you get at a point sometimes and you're like, in our business, you're only as good as your last party, your last production, right? Your last, oh, do you have a ticket? Can you give me a ticket? Yeah. This sort of has cemented that I'm a legacy maker.
Yes.
And that I am going to rule the world
Yes.
in my future creations, and that it ain't over yet.
No, it's not.
And thank you so
And the
much.
fat lady ain't singing
That's
over
right.
here.
Thank
Thank you,
I
Terryl.
appreciate you.
Thank you.